Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item of business tonight is a special meeting to hold a hearing on the annexation agreement with Cardinal Hill people.
Cardinal Ridge.
Cardinal Ridge people. I just said that.
It's a special meeting.
Well, no, it is a special
meeting, yeah.
to have a public hearing. Okay. So, are there anybody here to comment on, from the public to comment on Cardinal Hill, the annexation agreement? Yes.
I wrote it down because I didn't want to take a whole lot of time. I just wanted to ask you all to vote no to any expansion at this time. And there's 3 reasons why. We need to have a decent budget in place with a set aside for capital improvements for our infrastructure. We need to actually have money in that set aside before we add to our distribution system. And that brings me to number 2. And I've already addressed this in an email. There are pressure issues west of Route 4. And if you add more demand, you're only adding to the low pressure problems that are already existing over there. Without money in a capital improvement fund, we won't have any way to fix the problems. And if we have money there, then we can add a booster station or a tower, and then we can expand. But until the money's there, you're just putting the cart before the horse. Number 3, our schools are overcrowded. That needs to be looked at very closely to determine if it's even feasible to allow more students at this time and how many. For those reasons, I would like to ask you to please vote no to any expansion this time.
Okay, would anybody else like to comment?
I'd just like to reread what Jules got here and let you know. And for anybody in the crowd that does not know who Jewel is, it's Jewel Brandt. She is very familiar with the water issues and things like that. I'm just a citizen out there trying to support the right thing to be done. So again, I would rather see you guys hold off on this vote until the citizens of the village of Chatham can get some answers and some guarantees. Because Mr. Gray, last week when we asked you, or a couple weeks ago when I was here, we asked you if the water supply was going to be enough. You said yes. Somebody asked you if we had to build another water tower, and you said no. I would like a guarantee before you guys go and invest in this. So if you want, I'll reread it again.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know if Mr. Burke is going to give us a report on the capacity of the water plant and how it will provide the water for additional, because there's already been several subdivisions approved. I know that they all won't be built tomorrow, but they are all in the future. And how are we going to sustain them all? Just because South Sangamon is our water provider does not mean that we can provide the water.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, just for the record, we should probably, since this is a public hearing, make sure we get everybody's name for the record.
I got it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Have you talked to South Sangamon Water about the capacity? Have you talked to them about the pressure problems that are already on the west side and adding additional apartments and stuff, what that's going to, have anybody on the board talked to South Sangamon Water?
This is public comment. You're making, you made your point though that what you want us to do. So.
But what I want you to do is to say to me, yes, we've talked to them. Have the board members talked to the water plant and asked them, by adding these additional 300 apartments, what's that going to do to the water pressure? What's that going to do to our capacity? Has anybody done that? I mean, I'm not objecting to growth. I'm not objecting to these apartments in any way, shape, or form. But before you do that, you need to have your ducks in a row to know that we can handle this. And is that part of Chatham that's being annexed in? I mean, is the EPA going to allow them to tap on since they're still restricted?
Chatham's
Yeah.
So that is part of Chatham?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else?
So you're not
Yeah.
going to respond to
I
questions?
mean, okay, go ahead.
You're not going to respond to the questions of the citizens?
This isn't a question and answer session, it's public comment. You've expressed, your concern. Yes, ma'am.
I know that we passed the last board meeting, maybe it was, I don't know, I get all confused, to have the 300 homes out by the sports complex in that area by the high school.
Iron Bridge Estates.
Okay, thank you. I know that you passed
Oh,
that
the Spartan.
without the road concessions. Has the roads been addressed for Cardinal? Whatever it is.
The whole thing is no.
I mean, I think, or any more public comments? Because I think Chris can address
Yeah.
a lot of the questions that you're posing tonight. So I'm turning it over to Mr. Holloway now.
My name's Chris Holloway. I represent Lake Area Development Group in Apartment Park Springfield, which is the developer that's wanting to annex this additional grant. I've heard the questions that you asked about capacity and the water supply. I was told that by the same people you heard that the capacity is sufficient. And actually, I think I'm taking a pretty big financial risk if that's not accurate.
Well, it's not.
Severely impact our project.
You saw the
So
figure.
I believe-
Wait, don't interrupt Mr. Holloway. It's his
I
floor
believe what I've
now.
been told, the capacity will be there, and that the system has the ability to handle it. We're not talking about something that's going to pop up overnight, we're talking about a 5-year project. So we will be paying additional developer fees, we will have water tap fees, I mean, it's a significant amount of revenue, which we talked about at the last public hearing about how much revenue it generates from developers. So we kind of feel like that what we'll do will help spread the costs of any changes that need to be made over the days. So we think it's a positive development for the development.
Chris, did you happen to bring that sheet that you had that shows all the different fees and things you guys are going to be paying and the taxes and the number of projected students and all that information?
Yeah, I mean, that was another question I was going to address separately, was not about the students in the school district, but let's talk about the revenue first. Over the 5-year development of the property, and this includes, I know the apartments have been the focus of the development, but that is only a portion of it. There are 49 single-family homes, 36 duplex lots, as well as the acreage set aside for the multifamily. Over the development of that property, it should generate over $500,000 in fees, and that's water tap, electric tap, plumbing, building permits, and so on. And that's actually just fee income to the village. In revenue for the utility department, it's over $1.5 million a year annually. We base that on what we do at Prairie Vista. I know that's not profit to the village, but it is revenue to the village. If you take a look at the property taxes and real estate taxes to the school district, annually, $600,000 a year from the overall development. If you look at the number of students that we have, I know there's sort of a misconception on how many kids are generated by this complex. At Prairie Vista Apartments, we have 224 units. We have 45 school-age kids. Of those, 20 were already enrolled in the Chatham School District before they moved to our apartments. We get a surprising number of divorced parents where they both live in Chatham School District now. One parent moves to our complex, and now you've got a child going back and forth. We were surprised how many of those there were. But we had 25 new to the district students at our complex as of our survey in December. Based on the real estate taxes we pay now for Prairie Vista, that's over $9,000 per student that we pay to the school district. That's significantly more than most subdivisions or most single-family houses. So we feel like we're a net contributor to the school district, that we've benefited and more than harmed them. If we you will. I don't see any reason to think this complex would be any different. If anything, it would probably be a little less, in my opinion, because this complex will have some one-bedroom apartments in it, and we have now does not. So the more likely it is some people without children. So, again, the school district is not, in our opinion, been affected.
Mr. Holloway, are you willing to take questions from us?
Certainly.
Is that okay with you?
That's okay.
Mr. Holloway, I don't think it's as much of an objection to your building it and what you are paying. Let's get it very clear. You are taking the word of the board that you have seen just in tonight, that they do not want to answer our questions in regards to the water pressure, whether you have enough water to supply. So, with that being said, do not take this a personal thing. We are not all sitting here, the ones that have already spoke, with questions that were not answered. We are not saying we are against that. What we are saying is that you build an apartment complex like that, you build single-family homes like that, and the water pressure drops, you're losing money too. How many of your renters want to move in there if they don't have the water pressure they need? So you are taking the word, because they're not answering our questions. All we want is simple answers. Can it supply it? There is not enough pressure on that end of town, blah, 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 simple little questions they're not willing to answer. So I'm asking you as somebody, a developer that's going to spend a heck of a lot of money in taxes and the building and everything else, the taps and everything else. I understand that. My son's a construction guy. Fully understand what you're going to give the village of Chatham. But you're telling me right now you are fully aware of what could happen, or you're just going to take the word of what they've said?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I'm fully aware of the risks.
Does it make you worried?
And it really does not. I mean, I have faith in things that I've learned and I've heard. And I mean, I've been around Chatham long enough. It's not been a problem for us out at Prairie Vista. And I feel whatever problems there may be, I feel confident that they'll be resolved.
So
I think that our problem is the fact that what if they have to build another tower? Okay? We're already on the hook for $55 million. What's another tower going to cost us?
And I have all those things.
So if your apartment buildings, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if your apartment buildings put us over capacity, or if your apartment buildings knock the water pressure down on the west side of town, where, you can't get anything out, then they're going to come back to us and say, we need another tower. We need another tower. We need to do another bond. We're going to indebted you for another, maybe $2.5, $5 million. I think that's the concern of a lot of people here. We're in a god-awful mess with this water plant.
Again, I think I understand the risks that this is something that were to happen. I think I would still argue that we're better off as a community having a bigger base to help pay for that. I mean, I realize it's going to exacerbate the problem somewhat by having more demand, but it also gives you a bigger base to spread that expense over, more revenue to help cover it.
Well, I guess our feeling is, let's build the revenue up first. Let's get us in the black instead of in the red. Let's have some money and let's look to the future. Okay, in 4 years from now, you can come in and start building, because this is what we've got set aside, and we can support the extra. But that's not what everybody's doing. We're throwing the apartments in there, the houses, the duplexes, and all of that, and if it doesn't work, then who do they come to? They come to us, and they come to this trough how many times, and it's getting a little dry.
And what about the roads?
I'm
Did you
sorry.
say anything about the roads?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No,
My concern, though, would be that stopping growth would not be the best way to solve that. I mean, I still think that a reasonable growth would still be a better step forward for the village than stopping completely.
I'm not saying stop the growth. I'm saying let's put it on hold for a couple, 3 years so we can get the buildup of the cash that we need. I live in the old part of Chatham, and my street is horrible. The streets on the east side of town are god-awful. There's potholes. It's terrible. We need to fix our streets instead of putting up another tower. No offense.
As a developer, it's a timing issue for me too. mean, this is my business, this is what I've been doing for the last 15 years. If I'm not able to build there for 3 or 4, however many years you suggest, I'm going to be forced to go somewhere else. And, I mean, because now is when the demand is there. Everyone knows what's happened to the housing market in the last several years. It's slowed down significantly. There's been increased demand for apartments. There's going to be some apartments built somewhere, whether it's me or somebody else. If I don't build this, then somebody's going to build, if not me, will build somewhere in Springfield or around town somewhere, and will take away the demand that I'm trying to anticipate. So if I have to wait several years, it may not be feasible for me to build it.
Can you give us $3 million to put the safety net for a new water tower has to go up?
Not if I want to build apartments.
Darn, thought we'd get borrowed there, Mr. Holloway, thank you.
Do any of the trustees have questions for Mr. Holloway?
Talk about the road. Yeah, can I also address the road now? That's
Yeah,
okay.
could you tell me exactly where it's going to be built?
On Mansion Road, you go west on Mansion Road, there's the very last house there, it's kind of on the edge of it. It's a notched out corner where the house is. It backs up to,
My house,
okay, where the right entrance, the subdivision, North Point.
North Point, yeah.
And there is a buffer built into the plan, city plan, that buffers duplexes, which that is all zoned for duplex.
Right.
And subdivision. It puts another buffer to the duplexes before the apartments.
So the apartments would be on the other side of that one house that's kind of like a farmhouse?
Yes, I mean, it'd be an entrance road that would come in on the other side of that house, apartments would be west of it. One of the questions that came up during our public meeting, was it 3 weeks ago, I believe, was the question of Mansion Road, and it was asked of us to make a change to the development. And our engineers had drawn up a plan which would put a turn lane there in front of our apartments to help the traffic. That it really does 2 things. It helps Mansion Road, as far as providing the turn lane, but village engineers agreed with our engineers' assessment of the traffic that it would bring most of the traffic out that way as well. I think the estimate, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, was 85% was projected to come out on Mansion Road.
That was our projection, and then, the village had some small projection.
And so, we've been asked to, in our plan, we've submitted a plan that's been reviewed by the village engineers, and my understanding is that they've signed off on it. They have. They've signed off on the plan that we have to acquire a right-of-way from the single-family house, to widen the road there in front of our property. We're also required to run the water line across in front of our property to the end of it, so the next developer would have a place to tap on. That's all at our expense. The only thing that I've asked in this development plan, in this road improvement plan, is if for any reason we can't come to an agreement with the owner of that property, we would instead take that same amount of money, give it to the village to improve Mansion Road wherever we want it to. Because otherwise, we've just given that property owner the right to veto our project. It's in the wash. So, but our intention, we're better off if we improve this in front of our property if we don't pay for it. So we're certainly going to make our best effort to do that. But failing an agreement with them, then that said money would go to the village for all the road improvements. And that's the agreement that's been completed. And Jeff, is there anything else? There's water extension.
Water
Stop
water
right
and
there.
electric can get extended.
What about the stoplight at Mansion and, what is that, 4? Would they make that like a double turn lane left out of there? Or that's not up to you, that would be up to them?
Well, for where it comes out of the subdivision, where it's gonna come out, you say you're gonna put a turn lane in, but what about coming out? Will there be a stoplight there?
The stoplight?
Stop sign.
Stop sign? I mean, because I know in the morning, that's very busy. So if you've
They're
got all
not-
these,
They're not stop sign on Mansion Road, stop sign on the street coming out. Just like all the rest of them.
Any of the trustees have further? Nina, did you have some questions?
I do, and it was more based for our lawyer that is not here. And so, I don't think we're going to be able to answer those.
Part of their questions our attorney can answer.
Well, I would kind of like to get more of our opinion from our lawyer.
I mean, if they're, Jeff Baker, I'm attorney for the petitioner. If there's legal questions about the annexation agreement, I'd be happy to try to answer them anyway, I understand.
No,
what
it's
your
just
concern is.
basically, there's many concerns I have on the development obligations. I think they benefit you guys, which is very smart. But I want to make sure that they benefit us as a village, and there's some lines we need to change to make sure that that happens. And these are obviously worst-case scenarios, but we haven't had the best luck recently, so I want to make sure that we are covered there. And it's, obviously, again, it's not, I think you're a great business person, it's not questioning who you are, but I want to make sure that our I's are, dotted and T's crossed. And until I've talked to him on that, and I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be, stopping everything, but I don't think it's, let's push through before that's on place. We need to make sure those are in place to cover the village. Again, I respect you as a
Do you mind
business person.
sharing what your concerns are?
I'll just share one, for example. If you look at under development obligations, under current use for paragraph A, let's say again, worst case scenario, you're saying in that one is that once you're basically developing the first plat, which is the apartments, if at any point there's no timeline set for when you have to complete the other zoning. You can use that as agriculture it doesn't say a limited time. We're hoping in good faith that you would do it soon, but there's no timeline given. So again, that gives us a disadvantage.
Well, I can't imagine an agreement that would require the developer to do it within a certain time frame.
And that's what I want to find out from
Yeah,
our lawyer.
that would be very difficult for any developer to set a time frame and say, we're going to do it.
Well, that's that's on many of them,
As an
yes.
example, as we build the apartments, our business model is not to come up and build
Right.
18 buildings. We build 3 or 4, we rent them, we all want to build the next 3 or 4. We don't have the money, we're not a big company that can come in, build them all at once. We'll build them, rent them, just like we did at Prairie Vista. Yeah, it's potentially possible that halfway through the project, if demand just dries up, then we're just stuck with the rest of the land. But we will have already made the improvements. We'll continue to complete.
Right, and that's something we should
operations.
put in there, is that we continue to approve all of that infrastructure.
I couldn't possibly agree to a timetable to complete the project.
That's just one of, I've got a list of 10 that I have questions on for them to ask and make sure that
But
we.
if your requirement is that I have to have a timetable to meet to complete the project, I can't.
Okay.
It's just
All
not
right.
possible. And it would not be practical for me to commit to that.
And I would just add that language is similar to almost all annexation agreements that contemplate this large of a development that's taking up what's currently ag-based land, because they're normally done in stages and platting them out over several years. That's the same practice that's applied to every single developer, east, west, south, or north, so.
And another thing I have just on the utilities is to make sure, we've agreed to the right-of-way for this lady has, correct?
She is not, we've not.
Okay, so
I
that's
don't
another
know,
thing.
we've never met.
We need to make sure that our cost analysis as a village is done correctly on that, and I want to see that before I pass it.
And the village engineer has signed off on either of the two scenarios that could happen.
I understand, but I want to see the cost of what it is, and then, if, let's say, she doesn't have the right of way, what's going to be the additional fees for that, and who will, how much do we have to cover? And that's not you guys, so that's another, that's going to be on us, but I want to make sure we're not going to take a loss, because right now we will have a profit, but I don't want that to dig into our profit.
The difference in cost between coming in around behind your property versus going in front is pretty minimal compared to the fees that we pay. Steve can probably address that a number better than I can, but our plan shows that they're not cooperative, again, that they don't have the ability to stop the project. And it's more economical, and it's the best way to go right in front. But going around that, Steve helped me with kind of difference we're talking about. It's just not.
Yeah, just around the detention pond. I don't know if we can put the drawing on the board, but we give an alternate for routes for the water main to get to our site. And the route that the village would prefer is along the parcel in our corner, which makes sense, but if we could not get an easement from that parcel, then we can go in existing easements get a subdivision beside us and go around our detention pond. And really, the only concern the village engineer had with that was maintenance, because you're in an easement, you're not alongside a road, you had to maintain the water line. But
And I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, I have more questions on the cost of, you know, making sure that, and you presented a great thing, but I have not made sure that everything's matching up. And the biggest issue I have is, we made a big mistake by having the same representation at a major issue that we had before, at the same lawyer, and we should have had somebody here to represent us. That's not with the same firm. I mean, that's, right there should stop anything from a vote. And that's not to your fault.
So again, I'm up against a deadline on my land contract, is my issue. We deferred to in the last meeting. I felt like we had all the questions answered that he had from us. And I felt like, again, Jeff had a conversation with the village's attorney. Any other specific questions you have, I'd like to try to answer if I can.
Chris, when you did the other development, I know there was stages that you did where you had apartments, and then you had duplexes, and then you had single-family houses.
There were no duplexes.
I'm sorry, no duplexes, so single-family houses and the apartments themselves. Was there and this is kind of getting at Nina's point, but was there anything in the agreement to say, if you build X number of apartments, you had to build X number of single-family houses to make sure that buffer was always there? I mean, I know we're talking about the buffer of the duplexes next to North Point. So when a building goes up, will there be that buffer of the duplexes going up alongside of when the building of the apartments are going up as well?
I'm not sure I understood that. Was there the timing of when those?
The timing.
Yeah, I mean, in our plan, we're going to start from the north side of the property, north side.
Okay.
That's, and as we go, we're not typically duplex developers. We might build some of those, but typically we sell those off. One of the mistakes, in my opinion, that we made when we did Prairie Vista was we should have either built those houses as we went or sold off the lots. We didn't. We sat on them, we built the apartments first, and we came back and started building the houses. That was my own mistake, of just timing. I should have done it differently. But the housing market was terrible at the time. So, we wound up selling, we built 4 or 5 houses, and decided we were better off letting others do that, so we sold the lots. Had we sold the lots sooner, the houses probably would have been built sooner. The timing on the duplexes, I don't have a timetable for those that I can tell you about. Again, it goes back to the question of, I can't be tied to a timetable on any development. It just isn't practical. Am I going to start with the apartments first? Absolutely. That's where I have to start. That's that's what drives the economics for me.
Sure.
But the duplexes are very much a part of the plan for us. I mean, we're not just putting them in there as a buffer. It is a buffer. It's designed to be a buffer, but it's really part of our overall plan to build. My partners and I have talked about even wanting to build the single-family homes ourselves as well. We may or may not do that, but we've got a ways to go to figure that out.
And I guess my question is, would it be possible, and you can say no, but would it be possible to tie in when you're building the apartments to maintain that buffer going down the line with the duplex, either with you building them or you selling off the lot? If you sell off the lot and somebody doesn't build, it's not your fault, but you've done your due diligence.
To answer your question, no, it's not really practical.
Okay.
I mean, you've got, first of all, we're up against R2 and R3 zoning already.
Correct.
And then we have another layer of R2. And then we have a street, and then we have the apartments. So, I mean, there's a pretty good buffer naturally.
Okay.
In my opinion. And so, I do believe the duplexes will sell and they will build probably sooner rather than later. But it just isn't practical for me to commit to a time frame on anything.
Okay, thank you.
I wish I could.
Can you kind of talk about, as far as any, I hate to call them crimes, or any police involvement in Prairie Vista? I know you and I talked about that I don't know if,
Well, at the last public meeting, our police chief was here. He spoke, he addressed it, as you recall. And his comment was that he has no more calls to our neighborhood than any other neighborhood. He also commented, and I was pleased to hear this, was that whenever they've had an issue out there, they notify us and we deal with it. And we have pretty low tolerance for people that cause trouble, whether it's noise or whatever it may be. We're not going to lose the good where there's the bad. I think that's where a lot of other complexes make mistakes. So we're there every day, and we see the issues, we deal with them. But no, we've not had any issues at all. I'm going to try to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine. I don't know exactly what the chief said, but I've talked with Mr. Holloway on several different occasions. As he already stated, that if you do have an issue with the renter up there, I talked to him or I talked to one of his assistants, and they pretty much take care of it inclusively. They do a very good job with it.
Can I emphasize again that we're not having a problem with your building?
Thank you.
Okay, we're having a problem with the issues that lead up to you.
Okay.
Because if you take my water pressure away, I'm gonna take a shower at your place.
Yeah, we're all in the same apartment.
When you're talking about a buffer, what do you mean by a buffer?
Oh, the current residents of North Point, when you're going from subdivision to subdivision, you usually have some type of buffer. So the current divisions of North Point, then what will be the next housing block.
So you're still saying a buffer is a buffer. I still don't understand what you're saying by a buffer. Is it a wall? Is it a?
No, it's almost like the houses of North Point here, and then to buffer between the houses of North Point and the apartments, there will be a row of duplexes.
It's transitional. You transition from houses to duplexes to multifamily.
Like an easement type thing?
No, it's
no.
in the development, the structure of the
I don't know if
development.
buffer was the right word to
Most
use.
cities requires, if you have multifamily, that it's, you have single family, and you have a duplex, and you have multifamily. And so it provide that zoning, it's a zoning buffer, if you will, it's around it.
Oh.
And it just
So
provides.
it's imaginary.
Transition is probably the better word.
Transition is probably a better word.
Yeah, it's not a screen, or it's not
It's not
berms,
berms.
landscaping, it's just simply a transition from a single family to duplexes.
Is there a law that says there has to be so much distance between these places?
It's whatever the zoning requires.
Oh, they can set their own distance.
Well, I mean, our plan falls in, fits within the village code.
Like, the village code says that you can't put apartments next to single-family houses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't have a single-family house in a multi-apartment building. So you have to have what we call transitional housing buffer zones from single-family to duplex to then R3.
Actually, you can't.
If the multifamily is already there, then right.
Yeah, if it's already there. If it's already there, you can, but if it's not already there, we're not going to
Or you have
zone
raw
it.
land, and there's no development on either side, and the developer agrees that he wants single family next to his
Apartments.
then
You
that's
could
been
do it,
accepted
yeah.
in the past, too.
How far along is that lady to making that decision, Pat?
We haven't even approached her.
Okay. Who's responsible for approaching her?
Dell was going to talk to her, but we needed to know whether there was a project to move forward with before you can go and approach the person about selling off a piece of her property for right of way, or she also has been in before, she knew that this was coming. She's talked about wanting to be able to hook up to our sanitary system, hook up to our water, and hook up to our electric. So really, if she wants those three items and we want some right of way out front, I think there's a chance to get a deal done.
If Mr.
But
McCord's
we have
stepping
not,
down-
I'm sorry.
If Mr. McCord's stepping down, why doesn't somebody else handle this?
We just didn't think that it was appropriate at the time to approach this woman until we knew that there was a project going
But
on.
Mr. McCord's going to be stepping down September the 4th, so can somebody else step in and handle
Whoever the
this?
board hires to be his replacement, or assigns to be his replacement.
Well, here's my question again, Pat, is the 51,000, if she says no, That's not even close to the cost of covering that we'll have to do as a village, correct?
There's two different issues.
The
there.
51,000.
Right, but I'm saying, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying our cost to fix all of that. So this isn't really, no offense, a question for you.
The 51,000 is to build the turn lane and as it widens out to 3 lanes, comes in,
Okay.
goes in, and then from the other direction.
So if she says no to the right of way, what do we have to do at that point?
I think we could probably do condemnation.
Which is,
Take your property by eminent domain.
and how much does
But
that
isn't
cost?
that, wouldn't that be considered for private use, since you're condemning it to help apartment market?
No, it would be for the public right of way.
Oh, great.
But we won't need.
For apartment market.
No, for Mansion Road.
And to keep the line going down Mansion Road. I mean, whether this actual turn lane thing gets done or not, the apartments can still be built.
Right, but then everything that I've been working with is on this community is based on a good road.
Oh, yeah.
And to make sure that we're not going to take it a huge price because we're not able to do that. I mean, that is the basis of this agreement. And that's where we need the lawyer that can talk to us, not you, no offense, sorry. I know you're great.
But the option of bringing utilities into us around behind that property is not that significant in price compared to bringing it in front. Is it an additional cost? Yes, but it's not.
I need to know that cost, yeah.
Well, they are gonna do that. We're not gonna have to pay that. We get the water line to the edge of their property, then they turn around and run it the rest of the way. So we were gonna get the water right to the edge of their property line anyway. The cost that I think you're talking about is the cost of the acquisition of the right-of-way out front.
Right.
If she decides not to agree to
What does all that
allow-
cost, right?
Well, they will give us $51,000 to use for upgrades somewhere along Mansion Road. It may not happen in front of their development, because if this lady does not agree to do that, and we decide not to try to take it through eminent domain, you
You're
won't
looking
get
at me
it.
saying, Nina, I promise you, there's gonna be no additional cost that we're gonna pay as a village at this point.
For
If
the,
she says no, and we have to go through this whole process.
I don't see where it would cost the village anymore, because we're gonna run the water line right up to the edge of their property, whether it be past this lady's house in front of her or behind it on their property.
Well, I think the question is, we would have $51,000 to upgrade Mansion Road. Okay? The question then would be, what would we want to do with it? Then we would have control over how we spend that money. Now, we can spend that money of saying, we're gonna do upgrades up to 51,000 and that's it, zero. We're not gonna spend another dime. Or we could say, we're going to take this 51,000 and put in another whatever amount that we want to upgrade, to do a larger upgrade, whatever we want to do. Or we just sit on the $51,000 until there's additional money to do additional infrastructure improvements.
And if I could just address, I know you want to talk to your own attorney, but I've spoken to Alex, and this was based on our discussion, our agreement. Our agreement here is that the idea is both the village and the developer will be going to that property owner, discussing her options with her, and because she's going to need to annex in order to connect to certain utilities, then the deal that's being offered to her is one of two options essentially. Not to just completely restrict it to that, but the two main options are, as part of the, hey, we'll let you hook up to village like you've been asking the village to do, go ahead and give us this right away in exchange for agreeing to what you've been wanting to do. If she does ask for payment for the right of way, the developer has agreed to chip in for that.
It's our expense.
As developers.
For any
expense.
additional cost.
For the right of way, for the acquisition cost of that right of way.
So if they say it's more than the 51,000,
No, the 51,000 is for the road construction. Now, that's over here, so then the right-of-way, if she demands money for that, the developers agreed to chip in for that.
How much? It doesn't say in there.
Well,
It would be negotiated in public, I don't think they want to do that.
It depends on what she asked for, and the idea is to go in there, to both the village and the
But my
developer.
concern is there's nowhere, where is that
No, but the idea is that the village and the developer have aligned interests in the sense that we both want that right of way for the smallest cost, if not free. And her incentive for giving it to us or the village, it's not us, it's the village, is now you finally get village utilities like you've been wanting all along. Now,
And
where
how
I
much
think
additional
you're,
cost is that,
Well,
to get her in for electric and?
the water would be right there, the electric is right there, everything is gonna go right past her. It's-
And even if it's something that says, hey, 56,000, unless the right-of-way is not okay, we'll cover half, something in that line needs to make
I
sure.
think the
And I love the good faith thing, but we have really not, we need to be a little bit.
this agreement legally obligates us to go to her and get that right of way. And in order to do what the village wants to do, which is run all those utilities right along adjacent to Mansion Road. If she says, no way, I'm not giving it to you, then we say, village, we were all set to do this road expansion. She won't let us do it. All you have to do, village, instead of running the utilities adjacent along Mansion, is run it down to the little cutout part of our property on the northeast corner. And here's $51,000, do with it what you will with regard to Mansion Road. So
And cover
there's-
any additional fees?
As far as the village's cost, what the village is looking at is their two different options are, we're either gonna have to run utilities along Mansion Road in front of her yard, or run it along her eastern boundary to the developer's point of connection. That's the developer's cost either way, or that's the village's cost either way. That doesn't change whatever she says.
Right, but again, I want to know what that additional fee is from our village.
But I don't.
If
think-
that worst case scenario, what is,
I don't, Shane will have to get
Yeah.
those numbers for you.
And I don't know if our engineer can opine as to what he thinks the additional cost might be to go adjacent to a mansion versus dropping south.
It's actually shorter to go adjacent than it is to go along the front. So this is easier.
so where's the water line?
So the water's gonna come along here, so it either goes along their front to our intersection. or
Where's the pipe, or where's it at now?
It's down here.
Okay.
Either runs to here, or it runs to.
So we'll have that additional amount right there,
Yeah.
if the right of way is not done.
But then you wouldn't have this one. So either you have that shorter distance if she says no, or you have this longer distance if she says yes.
I'm sorry.
So this will get it in.
He's done.
That's the property.
I want to say it's 20 feet.
So they're the same cost, Pat?
I don't know why they would be any different, but I can't give you that number tonight, that would be just a guess on my part.
All right, thank you.
How much easement are you trying to get from her?
How many
20
feet?
feet.
20 feet?
20 feet for the water main. Now, if we widen the road, we will need whatever we can get to widen the road. Our development's giving 60 feet. But again, that's from the center of the road. So you're talking about half the road, the ditch, the utilities. A lot of that she's not using anyway. Because your property line's in the center of the road.
Now, doesn't though paragraph 4 say that you guys aren't responsible for anything regarding the right-of-way?
Fair. 4C, is that what you're looking at?
Underneath the obligation, it says the developer shall not be required to pay or incur any expenses related to and every claim, demand, suit, and payment in respect to the extension of the village utilities after the developer's purchase of the aforesaid of the right-of-way, or the reference to personal injury to persons or damage to the property of the developer of the right-of-way. The village So
That's
basically.
an indemnification provision, and what that says is that if in the development, if the village is doing work on extending the utilities, expanding the road, hiring contractors, and someone gets hurt, someone's property gets damaged, someone's car gets banged up, that's not on the developer. And then there's, I believe, usually there's cross indemnification language, I'll try to find it here real quick, but all that is an indemnification provision for claims made for the work done. Like if there's negligent work being performed by the village.
When's your deadline?
I'm sorry,
When's your deadline
15th.
15.
of July? We need to make a special meeting, we can do that. I mean, I motion for that. I think we need to make sure and I'd be more than willing.
When do you want to do that, Nina?
I mean, again, it's not your fault that our lawyer's not here. It was something that was addressed. I think we have to make sure that they're here and present for our community, most importantly. This has been something that we have not done with our water, that we have not done in past, and we need to start to do it right. And if we need to make it a special date for you, I will come in and do that. Because you have been very patient with us. So it'll work with you. So if it needs to be within the next week so our lawyer can get here, we can do that.
Probably, you're still in the public hearing, so you probably need to close the public hearing, go into your regular board meeting, and then if Nina wants to make a motion, go through that process there. What you think?
What's your calendar like?
Do you know that
I
your
you
attorney
travel
could
more
be
than all
here?
of us, Dave.
Do you know that Alex could be here a week from now?
I mean, that's what do you,
Because if he can't, then we're,
right. Do we have to set the date today, Joe?
No.
So we can set it, ask Alex when he can be here, what night?
48 hours notice.
I think I would just add, you're already scheduled for a regular scheduled board meeting on Tuesday, correct?
Right.
I don't want to speak for Alex, but my understanding is he's gone the remainder of this week.
Okay.
So
Just,
unless you're going to schedule it for Monday, I mean, you're already going to be meeting on Tuesday, so I don't know if you want to schedule it for Monday or not, but I don't know what your notice requirements are if you wanted to get it on a Tuesday.
Pat, would you, I guess, do we need to table it or and put it on be sure and put it on the agenda for the regular board meeting?
We can't just put on the agenda for the regular board meeting. That's all that really needs to happen.
and those are supportable. So yes, obviously, second.
Has anybody seen the pictures of what these are gonna look like once they're built?
I haven't.
I don't know if anybody's even seen what they're gonna look like. You know, are they 3 stories high, or are they?
They're 2 stories, so they're gonna look very similar to what you see at Prairie Vista, like Are
Are they gonna be brick, or are they gonna be sided? or-
Brick on the first floor, and then siding on the top.
I mean, I think you want something that's pleasing to the property, and it's gonna add, you know, to the aesthetics of it.
One of the things that we're doing different on this property than anything else that's been built is, we talked about this in the last meeting, the number of units we're putting based on using, say, a 15 unit per acre project is kind of the maximum we normally get. We could fit the number of units we're getting on a little over 20 acres. This is almost 29 acres, much more spread out, much more green space. We hope that it's a lot more attractive and more friendly atmosphere than anything else.
Because I don't think people in apartments like to be smashed next to other people.
No, I agree.
And plus, you gotta have parking,
And
garages, whatever. Is there garages, or is there no parking, or what, you know?
there are garages, there's number of parking is over 2 units. So, I mean, it's, again, this is spread out. You get the impression from looking at the plat that this is just horribly huge, but it's not as dense as what you might normally see in apartment houses. It's not as densely populated as what Prairie Vista is. So there'll be a lot more green space, a lot more trees, a lot more open area. The buildings themselves, nothing's over 2-story.
How much is it gonna cost to build each unit?
Build each unit? That's kind of a person.
Yeah.
I'd rather not, like, the competitors not know that.
Got a question,
Chris.
here, who has a question?
Actually, I just wanted to say that I wondered why it was all moving so fast, but now I understand you have a deadline. This is like the fastest I've ever seen an ordinance go up. I was gonna ask that you slow down, take another look at our budget. We have no capital improvement plan, we have no money in there. It's a big negative in my book, and, you know, his income that's gonna come in is a positive. However, we don't have the stability yet to stand on our feet and say, this is what we can do to expand our community. Our infrastructure's lacking. Also, if you're going to put this off and wait, please talk with Shane and have him get you some numbers on the pressure on the west side of town, on the west side of Route 4. And consider that before you move forward, because it is going to impact the low pressure issues that are already there. You're only going to be increasing the problems that are there. So please, if you're going to, you know, schedule this for next week, talk with Shane, ask him to get you some numbers. Capacity is not an issue, I get that. Pressure is. Please look at that before you consider expansion at this time.
So what do we do, Jeff?
Now you need to close the public hearing.
Okay, so we adjourn the public hearing.
We have a motion to adjourn the public hearing and approve that, and then the next item will be to adjourn the special meeting, and these matters will be then placed on the agenda for the regular meeting that will occur on July 14th.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to close the special meeting.
Do we have a second?
Make sure we have no more comments.
More public comments.
That's good.
Close the public hearing. Close the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now adjourn, the motion would be to adjourn the special meeting and move
Adjourn the
to
special
the,
Yeah, just
Put
adjourn the
it
special
on the
meeting at this
agenda for the
point.
14th.
And then put these matters on the agenda for the 14th. Then we'll need some time to change the video equipment, then we'll start the committee of the whole meeting.
Yeah.
okay. Do we
5 minutes?
have a motion?
We need a motion and vote first.
Yeah, I'll make the motion
Second.
to close the public hearing and to place the,
No, adjourn the meeting.
oh, to adjourn the meeting.
Special meeting. Do we
Second.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Can't leave.
Did you say break?
Yeah.
Break time.
5 minutes.
There's not a whole lot of business.